Nope, we
You
are
could just
doing
go
this. This is Fanfiction Contempt Theater 9002 coming at you live, loud and proud. My name is SneakyDevil, and we have Max Force and Atin here in the wings, waiting to be absolutely fucking useless as always. Let's get right
Suck
to it.
my dick.
You have a micro penis.
You've never seen my dick.
No, but Max has, and Max told me it was a micro
No,
penis.
Max hasn't seen my dick either.
Sorry, Max, I broke the secret.
No one on this show has ever seen my dick.
You don't know that.
I certainly
I can
haven't.
say with a high degree of certainty, no one on this show has seen my dick.
Alright, so what do you guys feel like doing today? We got lots of Fate Stay, we got lots of Ruby, we got some Bloodborne, a Harry Potter, My Hero
Let's have-
Academia, and
Hold
Worm.
on, I do want to take Sneaky. I want to take one moment to tell Netflix to stop censoring anime, stop giving us bad translations, and put the pizza boxes back in Code Geass.
False. We got some Worm Fix, we got some
Yeah,
Naruto, we got Pokemon.
Let's avoid the Ruby for now, because
Okay.
I'm binge reading one of Core's fics that I just haven't touched since he started writing it 2 years ago.
Or Forge Destiny?
No, I've been following Service with a Smile. I'm ignoring Forged Destiny until it's marked as complete.
Yeah, we
No,
all
I'm
are.
reading Relic of the I'm reading Relic of the Future.
Oh, Relic of the Past. Oh, I like that.
No, Relic of the Future. It's adorable in a really messed up way.
Adopted Emerald is precious.
Yeah. I like the seamless point of view transitions he does. And it's like, wow, yeah, I can believe that, considering what little we know of her from exposition thrown out by her song and what Cinder said about how she picked her up.
Mm-hmm.
And because we know there was a criminal underground that was presumably worse before Roman came onto the scene.
Actually, so before we begin, I kind of want to ask you guys, how do you feel about the Ruby Season 7?
I didn't look at any of it.
Oh, yeah?
I haven't looked at... I couldn't find anything for it. And I was like, well...
Well, there was the poster that got, sent around.
Okay,
well, yeah,
I looked for
okay.
30 seconds.
How do you feel about Weiss's new look?
Okay, I saw the poster and I'm like, okay, interesting character redesigns, but Weiss's hair isn't that. I'm not saying no to Weiss having a braid. I'm saying no to her suddenly
someone link me the poster?
It's in Western Gas on the Discord.
Okay. Yeah, it's in Western Gas somewhere. Just search for image.
Yeah.
Whatever chemical Weiss is taking, I want some. I'm fucking going, male pattern balding over here. Whatever she just took increased her hair volume by like 5.
Yeah, I saw it. I'm like, okay, here's the thing. I actually like the look of the braid. That looks fine to me. I am not okay with her.
When the fuck did Weiss go full anime
hair.
with her braid?
Hold on, let me pull up that picture so everyone can see what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, guy! I hope this isn't the new. If this is the new animation direction, I'm out. Although I'm glad that Blake finally put some fucking clothes on. Yang still needs some help.
Oh God, yeah, no, Blake's old shit.
Fine.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, Blake having short hair. Yeah, that's fine.
I don't care about the short hair. It's a fine look.
No, Max. It's the classic lesbian stereotype with the short fucking hair thing.
No, I know it looks fine on her though.
I don't know. No, she looks like she's dead inside. Like,
I mean, that may be because the last of Monty's soul has finally gone out of all the characters with these redesigns.
No. Ruby looks actually animated. Yang looks like she's about to fuck someone, either physically or sexually. But both Weiss and Blake just look dead. Like, they have seen some form of horror, and they are just not recovering from it. Also, didn't Blake's blade break?
Yes.
Alright, just making sure.
I'm pretty sure it did.
No, that's right. No, because Yang grabbed it and then stabbed Taurus with it.
with her robo arm.
Yeah.
It did break. Yeah, it braked around the joint actually where it folds.
Yeah. So it's kind of
which means that
guys,
Blake did a shitty job making her weapon.
Guys, it's not a Gundam model. I don't think you can plug and play that piece.
Nah, just slap some super glue on it. You're fine.
I like that everyone's predicting that. Oh yeah, Crow's just gonna die.
Well, no, because no.
Crow's not gonna die. What they're gonna do is they're gonna give him a horrible throat injury to explain why his voice actor is way lamer.
No, Crow's dead because you know why? Miles and Carrie are petty little shitbags. They absolutely are going to kill Crow. Not because it's plot relevant, or because it says Vic is fired, so they don't want to get a new voice actor. Whatever. No, they're gonna kill Crow because they are petty little hacks. That's why they're gonna kill Crow.
Okay, what does them be? I'm not saying you're wrong about them being petty hacks. What does that have to do with killing Crow?
Because it represents Vic.
Ah.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if there are a number of people that drop it just because they got rid of Vic.
I mean, if season 6 wasn't flaming garbage, covered in shit, that was also on fire,
well,
I probably would have dropped it if they had with Vic being fired.
I would say, here's the problem: season 6 was garbage, but there was just enough stuff that when we were watching it and laughing at it as friends, there was just enough stuff where we're like, guys, there's still you could still make a silk purse out of the sow's ear here. Just stop being retarded.
Like, that's the worst thing about Ruby, it has been so far, is that Miles and Carrie are good enough writers to actually create scenarios that could be great. But they're so shitty at writing the scenarios that it ruins them.
Miles and Carrie are idea guys. They're good idea guys. They do some great stuff. Back when they were in a mostly creative role on Red vs. Blue, we got some decent story. Which I never thought would happen on Red vs. Blue because it was a show made out of shitposts, and then we got the season with all the freelancer stuff, and I was like, I like this.
Also, I'm looking at this poster again. That is incredibly irresponsible of Blake. She's holding the bladed ribbon section and just letting her freaking sword twirl around right next to her allies.
Yeah. Actually,
Wait. Blake? Irresponsible? We've never seen that.
That's completely out of character for her.
It should be noted on the RVB thing. I think it was Miles was working with Bernie with the writing, and then they let Miles have a season. Carrie didn't come in until much later. And around the time Carrie came in, apparently people said that it started getting kind of iffy with the writing.
Yeah.
So
I stopped after the freelancer stuff.
It might just be the two of them. It might honestly be a fanfiction scenario where, you have a writer who gets a beta, and they go to the beta and they're like, yo, I have this idea, and the beta goes, wow, that is an amazing idea. Now put down your pants, I want to suck your dick because of how awesome that idea was. Are you sure there's no problems with it? No, that idea is fucking flawless.
Now get down here.
Yeah, I think that's what the scenario is between the two of them. Because, as you said, Max, it only started getting bad, according to the community, by the time Carrie came around.
From what I remember, around, I want to say season 7 is when Miles took over for the writing after working closely with Bernie for a season or two. Mm-hmm. Around season 7 or 8, they're like, okay, Miles, you're going to handle this now so Bernie can work on focusing on other parts of the company, because now that they're bigger, Bernie had to boss.
Right.
So, I might be misremembering it, but
yeah,
the first season he had, it was a little rougher than everything prior, but it still felt like RVB, and it still was fun to watch.
All right. So, what do we wet ourselves? You know what? Harry Potter, Game of Thrones. There's no way this could possibly be bad. Meanwhile, Max in the background slowly dies.
Max not the only one slowly dying.
I'm dying for a different reason.
See, it's times like this I'm glad that I went through Harry Potter. I experienced the world of Harry Potter by skipping every other book. Side note, still got everything I needed to.
Yeah, I'm dying because I can't really contribute anything to this aside from like letting my inner language arts teacher come out and be like, "Wow, this is badly written. You're missing grammar here. This is the wrong
You
way."
never read Song of Ice and Fire or watched Game of Thrones?
No, I have no interest in it.
Oh, no, don't worry, I don't either.
I learned all I needed to from the summary, which is if someone invites you to a party in that world, you should say no.
If you're going to a party with the word red or black in it, don't.
Well, it's not like it was called the Red Fucking Wedding.
It was called the Red Wedding after everything went down.
They only called it the Red Wedding after the murders.
Why am I here again?
Why did it get called the Red Wedding? Oh, right, the murders.
The murders. Never gonna watch Game of Thrones or read A Song of Ice and Fire. It's normie trash. Now look. In defense of Acewave, it's actually a good series. However, the update rate on it is so atrocious, you're better off not reading it. It's sort of like how when you find a good fanfic, I'm bringing this all back around to our specialty. It's when you find a good fanfic, but the author only updates like 5k words every 6 months. And it's just like, this story is great. Probably the best story I've ever read in this section. But at the rate this author updates at, I'm going to die of old age before it's finished. That's A Song of Ice and Fire in a nutshell.
I was gonna say, he hasn't quite, Jim Butcher hasn't quite gotten that bad yet, but he's getting close.
Dude, I've already been pre-gaming, so... Fuck. Let me try that again. There we go.
Please tell me you haven't had us muted this entire time.
No, I had posted the link on Arn's server instead.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, cause he's done that.
In the correct section, though, on his server.
Wait, does our terrible show have a section?
No, there's a fanfiction section on his fanfiction server.
Okay. They're gonna look at this and be like, oh, hey, Sneaky recommended something. Oh, God, why did he do
They
this?
deserve it. They deserve to suffer for not watching my podcast. Anyone that clicks on anything I link and doesn't watch my podcast deserves the Russian roulette of fanfiction, not actual Russian roulette. I'm not advocating for the death of anyone yet.
This week. Oh, by the way, you forgot to do our usual disclaimer. Don't call the authors. Don't text them. Don't send them messages. Don't tell them you hate their stuff. That's harassment.
Don't stalk them in real life. That's just a waste of effort.
Truly, the arbiter of humanity.
Anyway, so this is the Alpha Wolf. His will is the blade. So, hold hold on. Let me get the fucking Edge banner up, and let me get the Edge tube. His will is the blade in which the coming tide shall fall upon. His duty, the armor that gives him purpose and strength to fight on. His blood, the unbreakable shield against the coming darkness. His soul, the last bastion forged in the furnaces of war.
You okay there? Is your
I'll
throat?
be honest. So far, this just sounds like a really bad Emiya Shiro fic.
It really does.
And I don't know if it's because I started playing Fate Go again, or if it's because I just finished reading the story you recommended where Kirito got summoned, or what. But it just sounds like some kind of garbage Emiya quote.
So beware, enemies of the North, for the Alpha Wolf has the North never forgets, and it never forgives, and winter is inevitable.
Okay. Okay. Sneaky, I'm gonna need you to dial it back. I don't know how. Because the story's already written.
Reduced, possibly slow your alcohol intake.
Oh, no, I need to increase my intake if I'm gonna fucking read this shit.
So, that's when we've become successful, right? When we make so much money off this that Sneaky can hire someone else to read it so he doesn't have to drink.
No, he's gonna hire someone to read it so he can drink more.
Exactly. Adventure suspense. 4,000 favorites. 11 chapters. 53,000 words. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Calvin, we do make money out of this. If I'm lucky, I'll be paid $30 in about 2 months, and I'll have to do something to contribute to the YouTube channel again.
4,000 favorites. Just keep in mind whatever we're about to read has 4,000 favorites.
I don't want to come off as complaining, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, our story was so good, but for crying out loud, I'm willing to bet it's better than this garbage.
Adrian, Harry, James Potter Black.
Hadrian, huh?
Oh, we're starting out. Please no, kind sir.
Oh. Hadrian was exhausted, and so am I. I just got to the first fucking sentence of this. He was tired of all the bullshit that everyone expected of him. But he knew that if he didn't do it, no one else would. Okay, easy there, Hitler.
Oh boy.
And so he soldiered onwards as he defiantly and stubbornly fought against the Muggle armies. Damn Hermione, he thought as he laid down in a hideout. He knew he was one of the few Maxwells left amongst the living. All others had been killed by the Muggles or in desperate hiding.
This is a start.
He wondered where it all went wrong. Time for some fucking flashbacks. Was it at the end of the
Pedro,
Second
what happened
Blood
last
War?
Friday was Sneaky drunk himself into a stupor, and we couldn't wake him up.
Not that neither of you fucking tried.
I don't know. If I'd rung your phone for a solid 20 minutes, you'd have eventually picked up.
Yeah,
and probably grumbled.
You fucking didn't.
Really, you should have set an alarm. You should know yourself better than that.
I do know myself better than that. That's why I fucking drank myself. Where the Muggle borers were hunted down like animals and purebloods like Lucius Malfoy and Bellatrix Lestrange ruled with an iron fist in a desperate attempt to prove themselves superior to everyone. Well, I mean, if they were ruling, they kind of were superior to everyone, so... Or was it after Hermione decided to reveal the magical world to the Muggles in a selfish attempt to make the magical world a copy of the Muggle one and couldn't see beyond her own
naivist and compulsive nature? I don't know what word they're trying to use there. I think they would have meant her own naivete.
Yeah, probably naivete.
I'm trying to think what the actual correct word there is.
I don't know. What I do know is that I need more alcohol.
Oh, good. Here we go.
But I have been informed recently that according to Twitch, alcohol is not permitted. As such, I will be switching over to apple juice. I need you all to fund my apple juice addiction.
I've been telling you for a while that we weren't supposed to be drinking, and you were like, whatever. Did you get an official warning?
No! I'm preemptively doing it. Also, I want to buy more apple juice. Like, actually. Like, I'm actually addicted to apple juice. Fuck it, I'll drink like a gallon of apple juice in like 30 minutes. No regrets. Yeah, apple cider is a type of apple juice. Apple cider is amazing.
But he's not talking about an alcoholic beverage, he's talking about just a normal one.
Hey, look, apple cider ain't alcoholic either. Thank you very much. I also will guzzle that like it's cocaine. You should also fund my apple cider addiction.
I have nothing to say to you.
Bro, I eat so many frickin' apples. Try to get a water addiction.
So you're responsible for Applegeddon.
I'm what?
I made a shitty pun. Fuck you.
That's a expertly clipped clip there, Arn. Thank you for that one.
Chat has labeled you Johnny Appleseed.
I appreciate this label. Now buy me apples. Fund my apple addiction.
Well, no, they'll buy you seeds. You'll have to take care of that yourself, though.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, you don't just give Johnny Appleseed apples, you give him seeds.
Well, to be fair, you could give him apples from which to pull his seed.
Oh, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
but then we just make unnecessary work for him.
But, like, that's what America's about, yo. Making unnecessary work for people.
I'm gonna mute myself real quick on the stream so I can tell a really, really really bad joke that I probably would get our account banned for.
Alright, just make it fast. Oh, Jesus Christ, you're sure you're muted? Just unmute yourself so the stream just hears your laughter.
Oh. I'll DM you the joke.
Do not DM a joke that can be publicly attributed to you and therefore used against you, stupid. Have some PR sense.
I do not have any PR sense.
Oh, God damn you.
What did you think would happen?
I had hoped, briefly, that I might be able to get Sneaky to make a sensible decision.
He didn't
I
know.
understand it was a mostly vain and foolish hope.
He didn't know, nor did he care at this point. His only thoughts these days was of survival. He knew after the Battle of Hogwarts, everything would be different. He and Guinea just didn't have it for each other.
Not having it for each other hasn't stopped millions of nations over the course of the entirety of human history from sticking people together and saying, make children. So I don't see why I should stop Harry gosh dang Potter.
Here, blah, 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 banshee of a mother, blah, 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 magical institution, blah, blah, blah. He went around the world to learn all the magics. Hermione and Ron didn't last long either, but he knew that was for the best. Ron was a jealous, spiteful prick, and Hermione was prideful and stuck up. Blah, blah,
Boy,
blah.
I guess we know how the author really feels.
Yeah, I know, Roy. Harry went to Gringotts, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, wait,
Fine
did Harry
for
find out that
damages.
Hermione had been stealing his money for years to pay
Probably.
for Ron's penis pumps?
Yeah, maybe Swedish penis pumps, yeah. Anyway. He got fined for the amount of damage he got caused, and then he received his inheritance. Even with the amount fined, he could spend flippantly for the next 5 lives, and then some with what he received, considering he had the monetary assets of Black and Potter. That's fanon. Blah, 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 trust of all, blah, blah, blah. Man that lived particularly enjoyed learning wandless magics of the Germans and Japs. Blah, 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 American learning.
Wow, they really said that. Oh, boy.
Incredibly freaky voodoo magic that the Americans did.
We don't have voodoo magic? They'd want to be looking somewhere...
Like Louisiana.
I mean, I guess you could argue the Bayou, but you'd want to go to the Caribbean to learn that?
Yeah, more or less. Blah, 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 Muggleborn movement, blah, blah, Hermione Granger. He didn't think anything of it. He didn't want to get involved in it. It would probably be another war. He liked being free, and he didn't want to be involved with war anymore. Blah, blah.
Alright, I'll give Harry that. That's a perfectly valid consideration.
Yep. Soon it turned from political movement for Muggleborns and equal rights into total war with the Muggle world. Oh, so it's basically Antifa, but filled with a bunch of people who can shoot laser nukes. Yeah, how could that have gone wrong? Ow.
You okay there?
No, I just slapped my leg against the desk.
I can
That sounds like a personal problem.
It is. Blah, blah, blah. Blah. From what Harry understood, Hermione and another of Muggleborns began performing magic at a United Nations meeting, and after being captured by the Muggle government and interrogated, they were then publicly killed, and war was declared upon the magical people.
What?
Okay, look.
Also, you're gonna need to scroll down a little there.
Look, I'm, what are you talking about?
Couldn't read it for a second. Sorry. Stream went screw it. Couldn't use my words.
Look, I actually can't fault the author for how he describes Hermione in this story, because if you remember, or if you don't remember because you didn't read the books, back when Hermione found out that house elves were a thing, she then proceeded to try and free them, even though a free house elf died. That was actually a subplot for one of the books, is that a house elf got freed as a result of a series of events that occurred, and proceeded to drink their way into alcoholism.
Okay, but that doesn't have anything to do with all house elves.
No, it doesn't. But considering every single time she tried to free the house elves, they all ran away screaming.
Yeah, I never. What was up with the house elves again? They were.
So house elves were a ambiguous magical creature of unknown origins that bonded to wizards or a place of large magical concentration, such as Hogwarts. And in exchange for siphoning the magic from that area to survive, they would perform laundry and cooking food and other such servant
household tasks.
Household tasks, yeah. And being freed literally breaks the bond of servitude to whatever they bonded to. And also sends them into spiraling depression and other such fun maladies.
Okay, but then why didn't that happen to Dobby?
Because J.K. Rowling forgot her own rules.
That, or she just didn't want that, or she realized what she'd accidentally done and was like, I probably shouldn't write a children's book in which the slave dies when he leaves slavery.
No, actually, it's the other way around, because Dobby came first, and then the slave dying from being freed happened. So the fandom speculates either Dobby linked himself to Hogwarts or Harry. Oh my god, Arn. I mean, you're not wrong entirely. Oh it was embarrassing, to be honest. I watched those videos. That was embarrassing.
What was embarrassing?
The actor that played Hermione Granger went in front of the UN to talk about feminism.
I didn't think it was terrible.
Several times, in fact, actually.
Caveat, I watched the first one. Like, the first time she spoke. Which I didn't think was bad.
It got bad. Like, the most recent one was really... Ugh. But, regardless... So anyway, Hermione, not out of character, did something insanely stupid, and massive consequences resulted from that. Now, I will admit, I'm actually kind of shocked that the UN publicly executed anyone. Like, no mentions of even raping them first. Honestly, that's the most shocking part of it.
I mean, all joking aside, for crying out loud, we still let Russia have a military veto in the UN.
I mean, you know what that's what there's two things that the what they call the blue hats or whatever. Yeah, the blue hats. There's two things that the blue hats are known for, and that's being absolutely fucking useless and massive amounts of rape. So, you know.
What are you talking about?
The UN peacekeeping force.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Also, Saudi Arabia is in charge of human rights.
Saudi Arabia is in charge of human rights. Russia has the military veto. Like, Japan gets to decide whether or not it's a lolly, okay?
Excuse you, it's actually a 3,000-year-old vampire?
I don't care if it's a 10,000-year-old beanbag. The answer is no.
Anyway, so, blah, 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 war against magicals. Pretty much all of the Muggleborns were immediately executed by the Muggles. And then the magicals that still lived actually ended up getting hunted down because the Muggle government figured out a way to track magic without the use of magic by experimenting on Muggleborns. And like this author's got a really low view of humanity in general. Anyway, so Harry went back to London to rescue Teddy and Andromeda after Hogwarts was blown up by precision airstrikes.
You mean the magical building that you can't find without a magic train?
Mm-hmm.
Got precision airstriked, huh?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And when he arrived at Tonks' home, the whole house was on fire and everyone inside burned to death. And the soldiers who did it were still there, so Harry shot them all. And blah 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 blah. The only way for the magicals to survive was to obliviate the internet. Yeah, look, the governments have been trying that for a long time. It hasn't been working out for them. Blah blah. Muggles were very smart and kept mass destruction weapons under tight security. Never mind the fact that the Magicals had no idea how to launch the missiles. No, the Muggles were saving that for the other Muggles. You know, author, it's possible, just hypothetically speaking, that maybe you should, you know, hypothetically speaking, stop using slurs against the non-magicals. That's offensive. I'm offended by it.
What are you offended by?
The term Muggle, it's a direct assault on my ancestry.
I'll have you know we're underperforming wizards, not muggles.
Underperforming wizards.
I don't think that's how that works.
Do you get told you're underperforming a lot, Atin?
I mean, that depends on who you're asking.
Anyone but the gay bar down the street.
Yes, I suppose you would know whether or not that they're underperforming over there.
What?
I'm saying you go to the gay bar all the time.
Yeah, I fly to Chicago all the time, specifically to go to the gay bar that you frequent down the street from you.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the fact that I live in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah, well,
I live in a residential neighborhood next to a school.
I'm not gonna say anything. That is another not allowed joke that you cannot say on Twitch. Anyway, so guerrilla warfare for Harry Potter, and he killed a shit thousand people, like several thousand, hundreds of thousands of people.
Boy,
alone.
It's a good thing I watched Rambo yesterday, huh, Max?
Harry just literally just murdered everyone. So Harry's just going around doing the big murder. And apparently all the magicals went up to the Arctic Circle.
But why?
Because reasons and whatever. And now Harry's tired as shit, right? And now Harry woke up to a bright light. And it reminded him of the King's Cross station during the Battle of Hogwarts. In fact, it was really similar. And after a moment of adjusting to the light, a figure with a deep, smooth voice made itself known. Hadrian Potter, descendant of Ignatius Pervel. It spoke. Harry whipped around incredibly fast to the sound and was startled to see what could only be the personified as death. What could only be personified as death. Okay. Itself with a power and aura that commanded respect and authority.
Respect my authority!
Respect my authority! If there was a god of death, then this is it. He dumbly replied. What do we even say to it, Edie? Probably, don't annihilate my soul, fam. I would,
depending on whether or not you're Japanese, I'll fight you for my friend's soul.
Well, that too. But honestly, regardless of what religion ends up being right, if any of them, I think definitely the first thing I'll say is, please don't annihilate my soul.
Seems like a good bet.
I mean, based on what you've done,
good way to start
I'd
off.
give it 50-50, maybe?
It's definitely a good way to start off any conversation with the deity.
Well, no, here's the thing. It depends on which deity and what kind of person you are. Because, some of them might like a little bit of Harry Dresden-style sass.
I mean, I'll definitely probably follow that up, with complete disregard for my existence in the form of sarcasm and insults. But definitely,
if we're being honest,
the
fact that you even contemplate trying to preserve your existence for 30 seconds is miraculous for you.
This is also a factual statement. The champion of the Pervel family, the catalyst to the artifacts, the Deathly Hollows, the Grim Reaper artifacts of death, objects of great power. But with great power comes great responsibility. You were two of the people to understand this. You and your ancestor chose not to use the power the artifacts possess to the fullest extent, and I know that you wouldn't have given the opportunity to do so. I find it hard to believe that me of all people do not use them, blah blah blah. Yes, you're correct. Many have gathered the artifacts trying to subvert my power. Of two people, you are the only one to obtain the three, blah 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 blah. And you had learned to accept my presence at a young age, blah blah blah, making me the master of death. You humans with your so-called beliefs. What an entity of my caliber allows a mere mortal or anyone for that matter dominion over me? No, to do so would be beyond foolish. Well, Harry had admitted that would make sense. I have to admit, I have read a story in which Death was obviously a gothic Lolita. And I was highly amused for about a minute from that story.
Then it stopped being funny.
More or less. Yeah.
Then Harry started making eyes at the lolly, and you came.
Actually, it was the other in that story specifically. At least it was the other way around. I'm pretty sure the author based the personality of that character off of Rory from Gate. Remember
Rory?
Gate? Rory, the gothic Lolita,
yeah.
the big ass axe, yeah.
That was an okay show. They never made more of it. I lost interest because it didn't seem like it was going anywhere besides Haremland.
Yeah, more or less. Also, I got a big kick out of the self-masturbatory nature of some of the episodes, like where a single.
Okay, hold on a minute. I get what you're saying. It's not like every movie and video game with America in it.
Okay, but America
yank
has
itself off that
objectively
much.
but America has objectively the best military.
Yes, but there's nothing saying that the Japanese Self-Defense Force can't have good special ops individual. Like,
yes, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I'm highly amused by the episode.
I'm saying let them have their little yay
I
Japan
will not.
moment.
We nuked them twice. We do not deserve this.
That's why we deserve it, Sneaky.
Arn is of the delusional belief that if the U.S. and Norway ever got into a war, Norway would win. You're a road bump. A very cold road bump.
Honestly, we probably wouldn't even bother with you.
No, they have lots of oil. In fact, they have the second producer of oil behind us.
No, but I'm saying unless we need oil, we're not even going to look sideways at them.
I mean, look what we did to the Middle East. I'm just saying, they have oil.
Yeah, but we should clearly go to the heart of the problem. We should go to oil land.
Indeed. The heart of the problem. Damn Irish ruining Ireland!
To be expected.
When you combine the artifacts, your soul becomes immune to death, and as such, you are instead reborn. Due to this rather unique circumstance, my companion Fate has seen fit to allow you to become my champion of sorts. Oh wow, interesting. What does this entail? Smart. You'll need it for the coming storm. In the world you're going to now, there are many enemies.
How does going, what are the terms and conditions, smart?
Because most people would probably be like, oh, cool, neat. But then again, most people probably wouldn't have united the three artifacts without the intent of using them for their own personal gain. I would surprisingly be one of those people, as my ultimate dream is to get enough money to just fuck off and never have to deal with anyone ever again.
Yep, that pretty much sums your life's goals up.
Just find like the most remote location in the Dakotas or Alaska and just cease existing as far as everyone else is concerned.
Yeah, sounds like you.
But anyway, since I'm not at that point yet.
So wait, does that mean someday, if we manage to turn this into a successful thing, one day we'll just wake up to a note from you that says, went to Norway, be back never?
Yes. And if you go to Norway, there'll be a strategically placed note that says, actually went to Taiwan. Don't look for me.
Oh,
I'm sure this will
Taiwan.
eventually end with us finding you in a sub-basement you didn't tell us about on the plans.
Exactly. I actually never left the house.
We'll just be like, hey, I'll be like, hey, Max, the electrical bill still looks like all sneaky stuff is getting used.
I just never left the house. I just sent you on a worldwide trip for no reason.
Well, you sent Atin on a worldwide trip. I just say, well, fuck it. If Sneaky wanted us to know, he'd have told us.
Yeah, but see, I would go to find him out of spite.
Where in the world is Carmen Diego?
No, here's what'll happen.
Say,
If we're lucky, we'll have like one fan in every country. By that point, just like, hey, Arn, here's an address. Could you go check the house there? Here's like $300 in it for you. Just pay people to look for him for us.
I'm sure Arn would be glad to shelter you. I could find some room in between the piles of money. That's pocket change. Oh, big clap. Anyway, blah 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 blah, perverted abomination, death and life, blah blah, fire destruction, blah blah, ice death, destroy everything. That's your goal for Song of Ice and Fire. Do you want me to be your soldier? I've done enough fighting. No! However, not enough fighting for 1,000. You are needed in this way. Fucking what? I will not be your soldier. I have done enough fighting. No! However, not enough fighting for 1,000. 1,000 what?
1,000 men, 1,000 lifetimes, 1,000 years.
Are you telling him he
1,000
hasn't?
armadillos.
Is he telling him he hasn't done enough fighting for a single lifetime? What is the no to? Is the no to him being a soldier, or the no to him thinking he's done enough fighting for one lifetime?
I have no idea. I honestly cannot follow this in the slightest. Does he have to do this 1,000 times to be freed? Is that the terms of the deal? You're immortal for only 1,000 lifetimes? I don't know. You're needed in this world, pretender gods, blah blah blah. To do so would force my hand, I will cleanse the whole world into the void. Your choice is either save the world or I annihilate it in nuclear fire. Harry contemplated this. What would you have me do? The objective is simple. I'll yeet all the gods.
Oh yeah, that's totally simple.
Yeah, it's simple. Just yeet all the gods' believers. That's it.
Every single last one.
Yep, everyone that believes in a pretender god, kill them. Look, I've heard of militant atheism before, but...
Well, I mean, technically it would be religious.
No, because in militant atheism, you're killing all the believers.
I know. Which is just a great plan there, guys.
You will be replacing Hadrian Stark, a son born of Brandon Stark and Shara Dane, to take upon the mantle of Winterfell and Warden of the North.
Oh, Jesus Christ, no.
I'll grant to you a fraction of your power.
I had actually forgotten that this was some kind of garbage Game of Thrones crossover. For a second, I thought it was one of those betrayal fics.
I'll grant you a fraction of your power, and as you develop, more will become available to you. Learn all there is to learn about this world. Sate your curiosity of knowledge, as you have done in the past, and fight the dangers that lurk in the darkness and in the light. And the Hollows, Harry questioned, will remain with me. You do not need them anymore. They have fulfilled their purpose as they will again go now. The entity moved entirely too fast, the skeletal hand grasping the entirety of his face, and while his emerald irises closed in this damnable place, another set opened in another. Okay, so far, probably bar none, one of the worst ways to do a crossover effect I've ever seen. I've seen this before. It is not common, but definitely getting there in terms of how crossover happens between Harry Potter and X universe. Is the author has some sort of stupid fucking war breakout, like some sort of genocidal war. Like, the UN is now run by Hitler, and he declares war upon the magicals for some reason. And, like, 99% of the magicals are dead, and Harry escapes or Harry's killed. And, then if he's killed, he meets Death. And Death's like, yo, boy, go to this world. And the authors do this primarily so they can basically have an original character, Harry Potter self-insert sort of situation going on, and where he's Harry in name only. Because they're like, oh, Harry's acting like a sarcastic jackass who hates existence. Not because,
but it makes
like,
sense because all his friends got murdered.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all of his friends got murdered and there was a war, so that's why Harry's not acting like he normally would have acted if he was an actual character and I pay attention to how his characterization worked. Because, as much grief as I'll give Rowling for her inability to write in general, she at least did a decent job of deviating her main cast from each other. They weren't all the same. They didn't all react the exact same to the same situations. They actually had a varied level of reaction. Well, admittedly, this was so she could have a all sides argument, and then from that, use the excuse of teenage hormones as a reason as to why X argument was picked over Y argument. It is still a valid tactic in writing. I will give J.K. Rowling that much. Which is something I just don't understand. It's like, why? Like, there's like, as stupid as it is, there's the fucking veil of death or whatever. You don't have to have an edgy Harry. You don't have to have a betrayed Harry. Just be like, alright, so Harry, he's got a couple kids now, and he's an aura, and he's like, you know what? It's time for midlife crisis, and I want to go on another adventure, but pretty much everyone's too fucking scared of me at this point, so I'm just gonna go yeet myself through the veil of death, because I'm drunk or something at the moment. And then Harry's in a different world. Like I said, as dumb as it is, it's a completely viable means. It doesn't contradict anything in canon. It doesn't require any characters reacting ridiculously out of character. It's like if it was a familiar of Zero Cross, where the characters from a different series somehow ended up in Familiar Zero, not by being summoned. And it's just like, why? You have such an easy way of doing it. Like, you don't even have to make them a minion. Like, you don't have to go through the whole "you're my slave now" thing. Like, you could just have them get summoned and then being like, "Fuck this shit, I'm out," and just leave. Like,
this bores me. I'm going somewhere else.
Or Will you consent to being a familiar? Familiar, what's that like? You're my slave. Well, I don't like how you phrased that, so I'm just gonna leave.
So it's this partnership that you enter into where I own you and your family and your children for all time.
Hey, you know what? I'm just gonna leave, actually. And as beyond the grim derp that authors like to write the familiar Zeroverse as, I'm fairly certain that if a human was summoned and was just like, yeah, you know what, I actually don't want to become a familiar, Colbert would be like, you know what, that's completely understandable. The exit's this way.
It's like, do I get anything cool out of it? You know, super strength, awesome powers, magic.
No. As you know, as far as everyone's aware, no. You just become a slave, a docile slave.
How about no? See, I'm from this place called America. We had a war about this.
But yeah, no, it's just like
Sneaky begins dressing golems in American flags and liberating them.
fucking all the bronze golems just get summoned, and you use your stand, cry of freedom. Now that I've ruined that, let us see what we got here. We got Warhammer Worm, which looks to be a Skaven crossover.
Oh, you know what? Just get that out of the way.
Alright. A shame 4th of July was last week. I know, right? PJOHP, maybe next time. I will do that Friday. So this is Worm, a rat goddess.
Oh no, this is gonna make me angry from a lore perspective.
This is the summary, word for word. This is a story in where Taylor gets the powers, knowledge, and form of a dark god. In this case, it is the great horned rat of the Skaven race. There will be grim dark scenes in some chapters. Fantasy horror, 3 chapters, 8,000 words, 48 favorites.
Okay then.
As always, you can follow along at your own pace in the Discord in which we place all of the links in. Greetings, readers. In this crossover story, the Chaos Gods and Great Horned Rat were successfully defeated by a miraculous alliance between humans, elves, dwarves, and lizardmen. The evil gods were cast out from the Warhammer Fantasy universe. The Horned Rat, in particular, received damage to its mind and is floating around in the calmer parts of the warp. He was floating there until a little girl triggered in the worm dimension. Warning, in later chapters there will be scenes of devouring people, dark rituals, and other grimdark material. Honestly, it is so easy to handle it in this way. Like, honestly, immensely easy. So the entities happened upon a Warhammer variant in which the Chaos Gods were immensely weakened. You know, maybe Archeon, how the fuck you say his name? He got like hyper nerfed or whatever. Like, you just flat and destroy. It was like one of those easy playthroughs when you're doing the Empire and you put it on easy because you just want to win, and you just flatten the Chaos Tide. It's one of those they use, right? And the entities come across them and they're like, hey, this shit looks good, this is interesting. Shards, eat that thing, turn it into a shard.
Seems like a good way to handle that.
And then Worm happens, and Taylor gets that shard. Simple, easy, clean. No worrying about crossing over the warp into other dimensions and stupid shit. Like what? Like the problem here is with the way the author has phrased this story is that the warp extends to the worm dimension.
Well, first of all, this is using the Horned Rat.
Yeah.
The warp is not technically in Warhammer Fantasy.
No. It is.
No, it is and it isn't. It's not the warp from 40k.
Yes, it's not the warp from 40k, but it is a separate planar dimension in which the Chaos Gods reside, and magic is drawn from. Because the Chaos Gods do in fact affect the winds of magic.
Yes, but we don't know that warp would function like 40k's warp.
No, we don't. But the thing is, though, is the problem here is that the author is A, ignorant on this, but B, is implying that the warp of Warhammer Fantasy also covers Worm. Worm, in which you trigger by having your literally worst day in existence.
Well, and here's the thing, right? Some people might be going, well, why does 40k and Worm work? Well, there's a really simple answer there, guys. Because 40k is set in our universe.
Well, I mean, not only that, they also, have, canonized time travel and dimensional travel, and oops, we're now in an AU, that's why hot rods don't exist anymore. I heard that Warhammer Fantasy is even more fucked up than 40k.
I mean, fantasy isn't. It's weird. Yes and no. They're both messed up. No denying that.
Well, it's really hard to say that it's more fucked up. Because I mean, like in 40k, you have your magic casters, which are psychers, and if they psycher too hard, or they don't guard themselves well enough, they get infested by demons, and they go crazy.
The human and the Eldar ones.
Yeah, but this is my point though. In Warhammer Fantasy, the magic casters are not psychers. They tap into nature, they tap into the stars, they tap into the elements, etc., etc. But the dark.
Sometimes they just channel fire through their very being.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say. Is the dark part of that, the downside to doing that is, say you're a green mage and you're channeling too much nature magic, you literally turn into a tree. If you're channeling too much metal magic, your arms and face and etc. could literally turn into metal.
Isn't that what happened to Gelt?
Yes.
For his face?
Yeah. Hello, Connor Wood. Welcome to the podcast. So it really comes down to your definition of what you consider fucked up. Is possession by a demon and imminent insanity more fucked up than turning into a tree because you were healing people too hard? It really comes down to you. Go check out that meme of Family Guy.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, or don't forget, channel too much fire, burned yourself to a crisp, or
channel too much metal, you turn. Yeah,
channel
but the thing though with fantasy, it's actually honestly, personally, I consider fantasy far less fucked than 40k because the Necrons in fantasy, there's two factions of Necrons. One that just wants to just keep to themselves and fuck off, and also kill all the vampires, but that's not really a negative. There's another faction that thinks everyone should be subjugated under them. But again, it's not genocide like the Necrons and 40k are for. The orcs are sort of a threat, but they mostly just fight the dwarves and occasionally humans, like rarely. So again, not really much of a threat as they are in 40k, where a single orc invasion can spell the end for a planet. Chaos is mostly quarantined to the north, and it's only like events of like say the Evertide in fantasy where you
I would
see
say
the
chaos is so nerfed in fantasy.
Yeah, they're they're about the same strength in fantasy. It's just because magic works differently. Chaos can't just infest every magic user for just using magic.
Yeah.
You're gonna go write more Mado? Okay, yep.
Have fun.
I'll take a look at it after you're done. Chaos, yeah, I guess I'm saying Chaos is mostly quarantined. It's still just as bad when it takes root. You still have massive mutations and horrendous diseases and plagues and all sorts of fucked up shit. But again, it is mostly quarantine. The Dark Eldar are too busy fighting themselves in fantasy to really pose much of a problem. The elves.
Well, I was gonna say I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're in 40k or 40k or classic. Like the Dark Eldar are useless.
And honestly, in fantasy, the Eldar are isolationists. The elves are isolationists. They're just like, hey, we have this island of ours. Everyone else can fuck off. We don't really care what happens to everyone else.
Well, we have this island of ours which guards the giant magic portal of doom. Just fuck off from our island.
Yeah,
that's
more
all
or less.
Want.
Yeah, exactly. The Skaven honestly the Skaven are the worst problem. But even then, it's only during the Vermintide in which they become an actual threat. And even that was more or less handled by the Empire.
No, be fair. Everyone worked together to deal with that problem.
Yeah, okay, yes, true enough. But like the Empire only lost like a single city to the Vermintide. Which, while yes, is massive in fantasy, isn't like 10 trillion bajillion lives as it would be in 40k if something sort of like that happened. Skaven, I guess the best equivalent to Skaven in 40k is the Tyranids, and the Tyranids are like a million times worse than the Skaven in terms of the scale of the destruction, the type of the destruction they wreck, and the lethality of their troops comparatively on a 1-to-1 scale between the Imperium versus Tyranids and Skaven versus Empire. They've just far outclassed the Skaven in every aspect. But I have to say though, playing Total War Warhammer 2 as the Skaven is hilarious because all you do is you just build a shit ton of Gatling guns and just win every fight because guns beat everything in fantasy.
That is generally how gun work.
But yeah, no, honestly, in the end, 40k is way worse, in my opinion, than fantasy because the racial equivalents are just like discard. Like, say every city is a world equivalency for 40k to fantasy or whatever. The equivalency is just nowhere near. The lethality in the 40k verse is just so much higher, and the risks are just so much higher, and just generally everything is worse in 40k compared to fantasy. In fantasy, everything more or less has its shit together, except for specific events like the Maelstrom event, the Vermintide event, and the Chaos Tide event. But, whatever. So, this is Worm the Rat Goddess. It's a fantasy worm. It's a fantasy Warhammer worm crossover in which Taylor, for some reason, connects to the warp and merges with the Great Horned Rat. Because, it only required a shit ton of work and a massive ritual that required the sacrifice of hundreds of thousands to bring the Great Horned Rat into Warhammer Fantasyverse. But Taylor just having a bad day, it was enough for her to merge with the Great Horned Rat.
Well, see, the Great Horned one had a bad day, so he's looking to get inside a teenage girl so he can whine about his problems.
You know what? You actually bring up a very good point. I completely overlooked that. Horned Rat Pov. The blasted man thing, elf thing, dwarf thing, and nasty thing defeat chaos. God, feeling pain, suffering from nasty ritual. You don't even fucking.
Trying to do Skaven speak, but poorly.
Yeah. All my Skaven, my children gone, removed from Old World. That's. They have failed their mission. Morpheus, come here. No chaos gods anywhere. I cannot see them. My mind hurts. All my essence from my vermin lords has been turned to me. Been floating around warp for so long. What is that? Some sort of screaming sounds like little man thing. Where is it? There it is on some world similar to Old World. Yes, go to that world. What are weird floating thing? I feel their powers. Stay out of sight from weird things. There is call from man thing down there. My powers have been weakened from nasty ritual. Plan is to seek host. Use man thing as host.
Horned Rat Pov. No one Pov. Taylor Pov. That's not how you do this.
Now, look, I'm generally not one that advocates for multiple point of views in a story. There is occasional times where I've read stories that actually handle the multiple point of views thing very well. Worm is not one of them. Sorry, Waldo. But no, I've read a fair number of stories that handle the multiple point of view thing very well. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not something I recommend people try to do unless they are exceedingly confident in what they are doing. Because the problem with multiple point of views is you set a sort of a certain pace and expectation with your readers with how you write the story from that specific point of view. But people view reality differently. I know this might come as a surprise to some people.
What? No, everybody views it the same way as I do. From a centrist, right-wing perspective as a red-blooded, God-fearing American.
You sound like a Nazi.
You found me out.
But no, but seriously, this is something that I actually see have a lot of people have trouble with. Like I just finished reading up to the most recent chapter a story for Naruto section where Naruto just has high functioning autism and ends up being a savant with seals. But don't get me wrong, though, is I really enjoyed the story because the author did an excellent job at writing Naruto viewing the world through a high-functioning autist's lens. And as a high-functioning autist, medically diagnosed, not Tumblr diagnosed, I might add, I can say the author was quite accurate with his depictions of things. But the problem is that when he tried to do alternative point of views, such as from Ino's eyes, or from Sir Toby's eyes, or from Kakashi's eyes, it was all written the same. Even though, and especially when it came to dialogue, all of the characters sort of acted the same. There was minor deviation when it came to certain characters acting certain ways, but it felt like the author sort of was a high functioning autist themselves and didn't catch on to the fact that they were writing everyone the exact same. Because don't get me wrong, everything else in the story was written quite well. I would give it like an 8 out of 10, honestly. Very, very nicely done. But the dialogue, it sounded like everyone was speaking at the exact same pace and had the exact same sort of thought process. And only occasionally did you see a sporadic diversity where the characters would have more of an individual thought process and not the sort of the way the author sees what they think the character would do. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You're just saying yes, aren't you?
No, I'm saying you were talking about how it was difficult for the author to realize that, oh, I'm doing great at writing the high-functioning autist because I'm a high-functioning autist, but most normal people don't think or talk or act this way.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. But yeah, so like I was trying to say, original point, I don't recommend doing multiple point of views, especially in the exact same chapter. Save that from when you're very confident in your writing. And if you're very confident in your writing, probably check with someone you don't know first. That's actually kind of why I like the beta service available on fanfiction.net, because you don't know these people. And if you can get someone that hadn't heard of your story before to look over your future chapters for your story, all the better, because it means you're less likely to get a yes man. I'm less likely being, a small percentage difference, because they might end up liking your story and just being like, yeah, this is great, just feed me more chapters earlier than everyone else. But you're less likely to get a yes man than someone who likes your story and then offers the beta for it. Because multiple point of views require a change of pacing, and that is definitely a higher level author technique of just being able to change your pacing like that, depending on which character point of view it is from. I definitely recommend people get a handle on just getting a understanding of how to pace their story before they start trying to diversify it with multiple tiers of pacing from different characters' perspectives. That was coherent. I'm great at this job. Pay me, please. For the love of God.
Please, pay him. Fund his, what is it this week? Apple juice problem?
I do, in fact, actually have a legitimate apple juice addiction. I don't have an alcohol addiction. I do not.
Uh-huh.
Nice save there.
Definitely no Freudian slips today.
I know you don't understand. When I go to Costco, I buy 4 gallons of apple juice, and it's gone by the end of the week.
That's you're drinking.
I like apple juice to an excessive degree. Now I want to eat a goddamn apple, and I don't have any apples left.
So what I'm hearing is the body pillow should just be a jug of apple juice.
No, that's disgusting. I would never hug a jug of apple. That would ruin the apple. Ew. Now, I will accept a body pillow with a jug of apple juice printed on it.
That's what I meant.
You just said a jug of apple juice.
I said the body pillow should just be a jug of apple juice, implying that what's printed upon it is just a jug of apple juice.
And I am 4 fingers into this whiskey. Implications are lost upon me.
Implications are lost upon you anyway.
That's fair enough.
The whiskey's not affecting that, don't lie.
I will admit, I did have someone basically say, I will date you, here is my number, call me when you're ready. And I thought it was her just being a good friend. Implications are absolutely lost on me.
You see, people, Sneaky's what we call socially retarded.
I will not deny this statement. Thus weekend, the horned rat floated in the warp, and blah 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 blah. Traeger event, Taylor Herbert, blah blah. Oh my god. Oh, cardinal sin. Cardinal sin. Cardinal sin.
Which one would that be?
The horned rat's mind was quickly deteriorating from the effects of the magical ritual used by the Alliance races of the Warhammer Fantasyverse. Cardinal sin.
Unless you're writing some character that's inherently aware of multiversities, they don't bring up the multiverse.
Well, no, they do bring up the multiverse. That's fine. That's not the cardinal sin. The cardinal sin is referring to it as its meta name.
Yes.
Yeah, like, this is from no one. This is from, like, an omniscient point of view, but that's. You don't do that.
Unless you're specifically using a narrator type character that Max and I are using, for example, in our Dark Souls verse, who is literally a narrator. His job in existence is to be a omniscient narrator who writes the stories that he views and then stores them in a great library. Spoiler alert. As if we'll ever get around to that.
A library, you say? If only there were a few of those in
line.
Dark Souls.
But that sort of character would call it the Warhammer Fantasyverse. But it would not be in the narration. It would be because again we have our narrator interacting with the characters. He might mention something like that accident. But that's not something that during the narration he would write. Oh, this is the Warhammer Fantasy. No, it's supposed to be a story. It's supposed to meta reference things.
Like, even if they just said, I don't know, whatever the name of the 40K, like, does the 40, not the 40K, the fantasy universe even have a name?
I think the world has a name, yeah. Terra or whatever. But regardless of that fact, you could have just made up a name for it. The old land, the old world. You could have easily made a name for it that was not meta. It's not difficult, honestly. It's not difficult. It's the Great Horned Rat, soon to be conquered lands. Literally, you could have come up with anything and it would have flown. But don't be meta in your narration. It really just kills it. As such, by the time the Horned Rat entered the mindscape of Taylor, however, most of his personality was gone, but all of his powers, knowledge, and dark instinct remained. Oh wow! How convenient.
So we're gonna get a slightly edgier Taylor?
No, more or less, yeah.
Oh, because that won't end poorly.
And so we have some narration in which I'm gonna mention this. I'm gonna talk about another story that I actually like that is doing something that I don't like, and why this is generally I consider a bad plan. Right. So, why? Why do they do this? I screamed in my mind over and over again while I was trapped in the locker. It's been several hours.
Alright, can we just skip the locker crap? She's trapped in the locker. We know what happens in the locker.
I wish, but the authors always get it wrong too on top of that. So blah 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 bullying, blah blah the pain, the suffering, blah blah blah. Wait, what is this? My head, my mind. I'm being bombarded with dark things. Where are these visions? I'm surrounded by ruins of medieval buildings, visions of rat beings. Skaven, Blackfjord, vicious warriors, green-clad disease. Basically just describing all the units of the Skaven, blah blah. I saw the deity the Skaven revere as well as fear, the great horned rat god of rotten decay, the god who is selfish but still sought to ascend to the children, conquer the world and other empires, blah blah info dump, blah 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 info dump, blah 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 info dump, out of character info dump, blah 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 blah. No one's point of view, blah blah blah. Taylor is unconscious. Dark rat magic. She's turning into a Skaven, and she is super strength now, and she
Not how Skaven works. Turning into a Skaven would actually make you weak. Unless you get turned like explicitly into a storm vermin, I guess.
And she's got three B cup. Three pairs of B cup breasts, and she got 4 curved horns, and her body was healed from all her wounds.
Okay, so I'm not sure when we went to Total Recall Land, and I'd like to go home now.
Kill her now! She's turning into a furry! We have to stop it before it's too late!
I mean, it's already too late, but we can still cleanse her. For the rest of us.
Yes, of course. And then blah blah, knowledge, power, blah blah, stealth, blah blah, blah blah, lore dump, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. She's thinking of Skaven things and blah blah. And blah, 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 Warhammer, total Warhammer spells. Blah, 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 total Warhammer spells. And then she kills some people. The author apparently has a personal vendetta against hyphens. Blah, 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 words and stuff, and she's killing people. And she sniffs the air, and then she runs into the sewers. And she loots the thugs like an adventurer, so which means she leaves them in their underwear. And then she eats them. And
I can sell that pair of pants for like 6 copper.
Wow! This sword is worth 5 gold? I'm gonna take it with me. Fucking Skyrim. Anyway, so she eats the merchants, and
Good
literally
start to your new life, Taylor. Cannibal. I mean, actually, I guess if she became a Skaven, does it technically count as cannibalism anymore?
No. She eats literally everything, including the bones, and
Skaven just eat meat, yo.
And blah blah. And she has godly power. And blah 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 blah. Observes her surroundings, and Taylor, looking at the bones surrounding her that she hadn't eaten in the sewers, she clearly panicked, and she screeched in loud rat noises. And she realized she was a furry now, and she freaked out. So couple things. The freak out's not necessary. Now, this is a thing that is often overlooked in worm lore, but the shards actually modify their hosts so they are not negatively affected by the process in which their power operates. That is to say that Taylor has literally no reflex when it comes to bugs in canon. Like, she has no awareness, no flinch, no reaction to the idea of a Black Widow crawling out of her shirt, up her face, and then into her hair. She literally does not notice. Physically, mentally, emotionally incapable of comprehending that bug in terms of why it might even be remotely non-normal for a Black Widow to crawl out of your shirt, up your face, and then into your hair. Oblivious. Other things. Aegis, for example, he has the ability to adapt to any damage done to him. He sees literally no issue with being impaled multiple times and then breathing through his eyeballs. Does not comprehend to him. The shards themselves.
His body fixes it later, but at the point where he's breathing through his eyeballs, he's just like, okay, in through the eyeballs, out through the eyeballs.
Yeah, literally. So it is a non-comprehension to people with how their powers operate. And this is actually something I see so often ignored in the various attempts at crossovers for Worm. Is that Taylor gets a power and then freaks out about it. Now, obviously, in this instance, she's not deriving her power from a shard. And again, this is why I say she should have, because it would be a far more interesting story to have Taylor, do shit like
attempting
eat people.
to reconcile what she knows she should be doing with what the rat part is saying.
Right, exactly. Because she's obviously not going to freak out in this instance about the concept of eating someone, even though she would then rationally go, wait a second, I probably shouldn't eat people. Now, you might say, oh, well, wouldn't that part go away as well? Maybe.
Well, no, because we've seen, like, Kate, the case 53s, 52s, whatever, be like, I'm horribly ugly, and I know that on a intellectual level.
Right.
Or I know that I'm a danger to people on an intellectual level. But what was it? The girl who was like made of like
Sveta.
death wire.
Yep.
She's just sad that she can't hug people. She doesn't have a problem being made out of death wire, except for that she can't touch people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No. Exactly. That is the thing. Yeah. Like it'd just be a generally far more interesting story. You could easily get over this pointless drama of, oh no, I'm eating people, and then she goes out and eats more people. Oh no, I keep eating people. This is terrible. It's pointless drama. You know how it's going to go. It doesn't add anything to the story. If this was an original setting,
I would say here's the thing: in its current state,
yeah,
it doesn't
well,
add
yeah,
anything.
but the thing
If
is,
we
though,
were operating with a Taylor who was struggling to reconcile previously held rational moral values with what, murderous rat instincts are saying is good, right, and okay,
right,
and necessary, then you could continue to have it come up time and again
yes,
as a
that's
repeated
fair
moral
enough.
quandary.
But what I'm saying though is that the specific scenario that the
In
author
this
is going with.
instance, it's not.
Yeah, what I'm saying though is in this specific scenario that the author is going with, is it would be interesting if it wasn't fan fiction. The problem is when it comes to fan fiction versus an original story, is that there are certain presuppositions already set up for the general universe the fan fiction is operating in. It is not a shocking or surprising thing for you to have one day just have a really shit time. Maybe your mother got run over by a steamroller, your father got shot by a drug dealer, your brother got raped to death by a dog the size of a SUV, and your leg
No,
got,
that one's still shocking.
and your leg just got blown off by a shotgun wielded by a lolly. And now you can shoot ass lasers. If that's the setting, that is the setting, and it's not surprising when someone starts shooting ass lasers in the fan fiction.
Sure, you can have people go, "That's disgusting."
Yeah, but if it's Harry Potter, for example, and suddenly Harry Potter just starts shooting ass lasers, everyone's gonna go, "Wait, hold on a second, what the fuck?"
Harry, did you get
Because
your wand stuck up there?
That's not the setting. But if it's an original fiction, you can get away with a lot more because it's original. Not so much original as in the idea is original, but original as in the story plot line is original. Obviously, everyone in this day and age is going to be inspired by Wheel of Time or J.K. Rowling or anything Hobbit related, etc., etc. You're obviously going to be drawing from some levels of inspiration from something. That's fine. That's okay. But your overall story is not going to be in those universes. While you may be drawing some parallels or inspiration from those universes, the plot, the world, the characters are going to be original creations. which lets you get away with a lot more. So this character, for example, if this was an original fan fiction, Stacy here just turned into a rat person and instinctually ate three guys. But upon waking up and having all of her instincts satisfied, she is now panicking over what she has done.
I ate people.
Doesn't that sound like a lot more interesting story rather than Taylor, who now is infused with the horned rat god, ate three people, and then woke up and cried about it? Yeah. Because with original stories, you get to set up the pacing, the plot, the whole idea behind it all. With fanfiction, the pacing, the plot, that's all been set up for you. You are working in a contained sandbox. You are not at the beach. You do not get to build whatever you want. You have only so much sand and only so much room to work in.
Now, some universes, like Worm, give you a lot more sand than, say, Marvel.
No, Marvel's pretty open.
Let me rephrase that. Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay, fair enough, yeah.
That's a closed economy.
Yes, that's a very closed economy.
System. Ecology, I suppose I should be saying. But regardless.
Yeah, I get
closed,
your point.
Either way.
Yeah. It is definitely highly dependent on the universe you are working in. And I honestly don't know why people circumvent easy answers when it comes to writing fan fiction. It's like, they spend, like, for Harry Potter, they spend so much time setting up how Dumbledore is some sort of evil hyper manipulator who planned everything to happen since the beginning of time and has been moving everyone like a chess piece, when it's just like, or you could just have Dumbledore be old. He is. And an old man makes mistakes because he's old.
An old man who's trying
and
to
overworked.
do his best.
He's got 3 jobs that all require normally a massive amount of attention to each of them, and he's spread across 3 of them, and he's old. And maybe wizards live longer than normal, but you're still old at that point. You have a lot of life experience that tells you to do one thing or the other, and you're just sort of sitting there pondering a lot of the times. Oh, well, should I do this? Well, last time I did this, 30 years ago, this happened, but maybe it's different now. So you're spending a lot of your time pondering and reflecting upon your experiences to try and help you in your future choices. You can make mistakes. You're an old man. You got multiple jobs. Doesn't have to be some sort of super hyper evil manipulator who planned everything since forever. Why are you spending so much effort on it? Because inevitably, in most of these hyper manipulative Dumbledore stories, Dumbledore is shown to be some sort of hyper manipulative chess master in the first chapter or whatever. And then by either the end of the first chapter or like the second chapter, Harry's like, Dumbledore, I won't play your game. And then for the rest of the story, Dumbledore is shown to be an incompetent buffoon that Harry manages to triumph against literally every single occurrence and event. And it's just, that's so much effort to set up Dumbledore as this evil guy that's apparently so evil and manipulative that he set up everything, including the rise of Voldemort. And only to have Harry just beat him, and it's just like, what is that? What is the actual point of this story that I'm reading?
I would say, to make it simple, to help with Sneaky's rambling, you can't tell me that Dumbledore plays 3D chess and then make him dumber than the sack of hammers that your mom tried to replace you with.
Basically. It's just like, it's not, you can use the example of, you've seen this quite a bit, Max, the manipulative Hiruzen, who was like, yes, Naruto must be abused by the villagers, so he comes to rely on me.
I hate that one.
And it's just like, maybe Hiruzen's just a really old man who's seen a lot of his allies and students and grand students and family members die on him, and his own son's estranged from him, and he's in a military dictatorship as the strongest village in the world. So that means literally everyone's fucking gunning for him and his charges.
Don't forget, his son's estranged from him. His 3 top students are a pervert, a gambling addict,
and drunk.
and a child-touching pedophile.
Who also is an enemy of the village. Yeah, and it's just like, maybe the guy just makes a mistake here and there, you know? Why do the villagers have to, hunt him down every year and stab him with swords and shit, and then leave him bleeding for Hiruzen to rescue every year? It's just like,
even though it's, you could confidently say that if they laid a hand on the kid, they would be gone.
It's just like, why go through all that effort when Naruto inevitably in those sort of stories is just like, Kyuubi, we should be BFFs and stuff. And one of 2 instances occur from that is either the Kyuubi goes, yes, poof, I am now female and madly in love with you, or yes, poof, you're now a half-demon. I have granted you some of my yokai chakra. And then Naruto goes on to fuck a bunch of women, possibly including the Kyuubi, and inevitably
Possibly?
gets his...
You mean definitely?
No, not always. Sometimes the Kyuubi is male.
That does not preclude the fucking...
No, it does for these sort of stories, honestly. You're looking for more of the sappy romance AUs. Those are the ones where Naruto and Sasuke fuck up. The betrayal fics are primarily composed of Naruto's a half demon now, and he's going to get his revenge on the village, and Naruto is now fucking all the women because of reasons.
You killed everyone I ever knew or loved. That's hot.
And it's just so much effort for something that in the long run matters jack shit for the plot. And it's just like, why go through this effort? You spent so much time and words, at least I hope you spent time, but you spent so many words describing how horrible the situation is for Harry or Naruto or generally any character people love torturing, and then just it's not part of the plot at all. Like, that doesn't have anything to do with the plot because the main character just totally roughs stomps on everyone and outwits them in every corner and always has a way to get out of every situation. Literally nothing bad ever happens. And, I'm not knocking those sort of stories. Power fantasies are power fantasies for a reason. But it just seems like a lot of effort to invent an alternative universe just to have the power fantasy when you could have put so much less effort in and still have had the same level of power fantasy. I don't know. That's mostly I'm ranting because of the recent fics that I've tried reading, and some of them were just so bad. And not like bad enough to put on the podcast where they, just generally had no idea what the hell they were doing, and the author just had no plan whatsoever. Because the fics I was reading, they're hundreds of thousands of words long. Like one of them was a Ruby fic where, inspired by Professor Arc, for example, where John actually does go to Vacuo, and his school actually gets killed off, and he swears vengeance as one of the only survivors, along with Neo, of course, for reasons. And he ends up ending up in Beacon like 3 years later after this event that killed his school, trying to search for the relics or whatever. And this is an instance where it was the opposite, where the author never set up an AU at all. Like, they had all these alternative events happen, and the second that the season 1 of Ruby generally took place, once that started in the story, canon rails. Literally fucking nothing changed. He had his own original classes that he wrote out about John teaching people about having alternative weapons and keeping their head cool in the midst of combat and all this other sort of shit that you would think would develop the characters of the main cast so they don't commit the same mistakes that they do in canon. And then literally everything in canon happens anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, boy, maybe if there was a class teaching certain individuals to remain cool and calm under pressure, they might not make certain decisions.
Like I would like. I'm not gonna lie. I followed it for 47 of the 62 chapters the author had written. Approximately 350k words into the story of the 600k word story that currently exists, and the point I stopped reading it was when, for no apparent reason, the train bombing that happens in, was it season 2? Max?
I think.
And
So
I think it's season 2. I'm trying to think.
when the White Fang boards the train with bombs, planning to create holes.
Yeah, it was season 2.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that event.
That was the was that season?
So for no apparent reason, the author decided to take that event and make it like 100 times worse, where literally they put it on the level of the Amity collapse of Beacon, except applied to all of Vale. And it was just like, what? And then I was like, okay, you know what? This is a different take on it. They've given their in-universe reasons as to why this is happening. All right, I'm not liking it, but I'm following along with it. Okay, right?
And what was the in-universe reason?
So basically, the premise was that because John had been interfering as a professor who actually knew what he was doing because of his time at Vacuo and the 3 years in between then and becoming a professor, where he actually took on lots of jobs and had clashes with the White Fang and SDC and other various people in Vacuo, and he learned how to fight Huntsman and fight Grim, etc., and was actually competent at his job.
Yeah.
Because he was that, Cinder decided that the more White Fang needed to exist, and so they did. And so reasons and stuff happened, and
well, no, I mean, if the concern is that there's another combat-capable professor at Beacon, we briefly toyed with that idea before we abandoned our story.
No, don't get me wrong. I didn't quite accept the reasoning given, but I understood what the author was trying to get at with why X events were happening. But the problem Adam Taurus is on this train, and the train, creates the hole in the center of the plaza, and the White Fang pour out, and the Grim start pouring out as well. But Adam throws a taunt at Yang, and John goes, "No, wait, Yang, he's trying to bait you." And Yang looks at John and goes, right, okay. And then Adam taunts her again, and she goes, rah! Like, the author never actually said any of the taunts that Adam said. All the author said was Adam taunted Yang again. and then Yang goes ballistic and runs after Adam in between these two buildings in an alleyway. And then John's like, "No, Yang, don't," and runs after Yang. And then Adam cuts a building in half and collapses the building on Yang and John. And the slice that cut the building in half also happened to cut off Yang's arm. And that's where I stopped reading it.
Cut a building in half, as one does.
Well, no, I stopped reading it because it cut off Yang's arm because she charged at Adam. Literally,
Right.
It was the canon scenario that happened for no particular reason. It's just like the author had spent all this time trying to show that these characters were developing and that they were changing and that they were learning from his lessons, and Weiss wasn't so stuck up anymore and was getting better, along with Ruby a lot, and etc. etc. And Yang was showing to be calmer in fights usually and more understanding of plots and tactics. But then, for no apparent reason, Adam said words that we don't see, and then Yang runs after him for no apparent reason. And then he cuts a building in half, and for no apparent reason, the arm Yang lost in canon is also lost at that moment. And I just sat there after I finished reading that scene, and I was just like, what? Why? Like, in canon, Yang loses her arm because she's trying to protect Blake, and at the worst possible moment is taunted by Adam in such a way that she reacts the worst possible fashion and runs at him. And in her hubris, thinking that she was, strong enough to defeat him, he cuts her arm off.
Mm-hmm.
And in this, it was for no reason given, for words that we don't see, in a situation that everything was more or less being handled, except for the part that Adam was escaping because the Grimm were invading now, and so they were like, well, we have to take care of the Grimm, go after Adam later. And then Adam says words that we don't see, and then Yang gets mad for no reason given, and then she loses her arm for no reason.
Honestly, I think what would do it for me would be the complete, not saying what Adam said.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and that is part of it, but I could understand if it was a sort of situation where, say Yang goes ballistic and runs after Adam, and John, throws himself in front of her to protect her from the slice coming at her, and takes a big old gash along the chest for it. And Yang has this moment of like, oh my god, because of my actions, my favorite professor just got hurt, saving me. And has this real character defining moment where someone else got hurt because of what she did irrationally.
Uh-huh.
But no, John runs at her going, no, and then Yang's arm just falls off. And
just pops right out, almost like it's a robotic socket.
No lesson learned. There was I skipped forward trying to see if there's any point to that, and no lesson learned. Yang is just like, oh man, my arm's gone, and John's just like, wow, Yang, that was dumb of you to do. Okay, that's it. Oh no, my arm's off. Yep, yeah, it is. It's gone. Way to cheapen one of the few moments in RWBY that actually had some, like, impact to it. You know?
Yeah.
Of all the things you could have done in RWBY. Congratulations.
All the ways you could have fucked up.
But that is where we shall call tonight. I appreciate everyone who stayed to this point. Of course, you should...
pretty much no one, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't appreciate that because these are moments. While I do rant, I do admit that I rant a little bit, and I do kind of zigzag. I actually get to my point, which are salient points, which are educational points. And
most of the time.
Well, yeah, okay, most of the time. But there's still salient points that are actually useful to learn from, of what to do, what not to do, when it comes to both writing fanfiction and when writing an original story, because it's something that I've held for a very long time, is that this generation's fanfic authors are going to become next generation's original fiction authors for movies and books and games and whatever new media might be derived in the future. You know, whoever is writing fan fiction today is eventually going to, at some point, either drop it or try their hand at an original work. And if that original work is hot garbage because they never learned how to write in the first place, well, personally, that affects me because I actually like reading fiction. I like watching fiction. I like playing fiction. So sue me, I suppose. I'm trying to ensure future content that I might enjoy will be enjoyable. But that's enough of that. We have gone over our time frame. And so I shall see you all next Friday at Fanfiction Contempt Theater on this channel at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tell your friends, demand they come, give them that ultimatum, fund my apple juice addiction, and I will see you next time, because most importantly, there is always going to be more, and it will always get worse.